In this video, I'm going to talk about how to use manifestation to help end bedtime battles with your child. First, manifestation is not talking about positive affirmations or just like thinking your child to sleep because that would just be wacky. Instead, I'm actually talking about a process that is more about co-regulation and learning how to better regulate your nervous system. The reason that I use manifestation to describe it is because manifestation is really this process of shifting your inner reality to have it be reflected out in your external reality. Manifestation, the word manifest is not about making something that you don't have something you do have. Manifestation is about revealing what's already there. And so through this process of manifestation, what I'm going to teach you how to do and what I have learned how to do is to better regulate my nervous system so that I can access a relaxed presence that can better co-regulate with my child so that they can find the calm and relaxation to help them fall asleep at night and ideally stay asleep. This process isn't actually about controlling outcomes though. So if you are looking for something that is going to teach you how to make your child fall asleep by 7 o'clock at night without you in the room, and they will just sleep throughout the entire night all on their own, this is not the approach for that. But if you are somebody who wants to stop fighting with your child at bedtime, or you want to stop feeling like bedtime is this just like nightmare time of the day every day, then I can absolutely, like, this process can help you with that. So for me and my oldest, she has always had a hard time with sleep. As an infant, as a baby, sleep was really hard for her. When I wanted to become a parent, I knew that I wanted to do more attachment-focused parenting. That can look like gentle parenting, conscious parenting, whatever. The basis of it is that the attachment relationship or the relationship that I have with my child is the most important part to me. It's not so much about compliance or being an authoritative parent. It's about how do I work with my child and build our relationship together and trust that when the relationship and the attachment and safety and security is there, then the behavior and the sort of like the development kind of like flows more easily. So with that, I knew that I was going to be co-sleeping when she was an infant and a baby. We nursed for a really long time, but early parenthood was really hard for me. The sleep deprivation was really rough. It was not good for my mental health. I had a really hard time. And so it came to a point pretty early on that I was like, I need more sleep, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to get that with my child sleeping in bed with me and my partner. We just didn't have the space for that. So we tried to help her learn how to sleep on her own in her own room, and I knew that other children and other families were doing it. And so I spent a lot of money trying to find sleep approaches that were aligned with this attachment parenting. And I also knew for sure that I did not want to do any cry it out methods. That was something that was really traumatizing for me as a child. I knew that I wouldn't be able to support her very well through that process just because of my own experience. So that was like something I was trying really hard not to do. But no matter what, like, we just always had a really hard time with sleep, helping her get to sleep. She feels very anxious a lot of the time. She has a hard time with separating. She is very creative, has a lot of energy, a lot of life, and settling down for sleep is just really hard for her. And so I did get to the point though where I was so desperate to help her with bedtimes, because we got to the point where we were just fighting all the time. She was always crying, I was always crying. It was just really, really hard. And so I decided to try the cry it out method because I knew other parents who had done it, and I was convinced that like maybe it'll work, like I've tried all these other things and they hadn't worked. So let's give it a try. And our experience with that was definitely like, I regret it. I wish I hadn't tried it, but sometimes you have to try things to really know whether or not it's going to work. And that's what I learned. It just was not a good fit for her, and it was not a good fit for me. And I wish I trusted my gut on that. But so here I am now with using manifestation to help myself and my child, and I have 2 kids now, go through bedtime and get through sleeping without fighting, without a lot of tears, without any tears on a good night, and really helping to repair both of our relationships to sleep and our relationship to calm and relaxation, which is a really big part of it. But for the sake of this video, I am going to just keep it really simple and go through this process that I've tried to really just narrow it down to 2 parts. The whole process of manifesting is really like a multi-part kind of process that usually includes like first getting really clear and visualizing a specific outcome that you want to happen. And then there's a series of like preparing your body for that change to happen, like reaffirming it through different practices, and then like just living your life and continuing to kind of like repeat those steps over and over again until it manifests. But because I know that you're probably a pretty crispy parent who is sleep deprived, I've broken it down to 2 steps. The really important things to know about this process, though, if you decide to try it, is that it does require, like, again, it's not just saying affirmations in the mirror and thinking positively. It is often requires real change internally that takes conscious effort and practice, especially if you're coming from a place where your own nervous system is not super accustomed to calm or relaxation. If you're somebody who experiences a lot of stress and a lot of overwhelm, it takes a lot of practice to essentially retrain your nervous system to find safety in calm and good feelings. So that's like, that even goes with like if you have attachment issues, things like that. But we're really adaptable. So the other part of this is that our brains and our bodies are wired for adapting and changing. So if we take the steps to make those changes happen, they will happen. It just needs more consistency, more practice. Sometimes it requires like the actual like one-on-one support or group support to make those changes possible. But for the sake of this video, again, like you can always practice it and try it on your own, see how it goes. Know that because of how we're wired and everything like that, I can say, I mean, with some pretty like guaranteed certainty that if it's practiced repeatedly and really felt in the body, that it will produce like noticeable changes with time. But it doesn't have to be that much time. Like it can be like a month or 2 months. But the tricky part is that really maintaining the consistency and adding this in is the hardest part, because it's asking us to really kind of do something very differently than what our body is used to doing. So there's that. There's also the other part where while you're making these changes for yourself at first, you're going to be practicing this in a space that is more controlled, that you're being really intentional about, and your child is not. Your child is not going to be learning this way. Your child's going to be learning from you. So when you're actually going through the process of doing bedtimes differently, the response from your child or your children might be not what you want right away. There might be more resistance. There might be more fighting from them, or tears, or like, yeah, there just might be some more fighting. But if you stick with it, because it can be kind of like a testing thing, it's not something they're doing consciously. But if you come into bedtime where you used to be fighting with them, or like for me, the process was every night I would go into it like, ooh, we're gonna do it different tonight. I'm gonna stay calm, I'm gonna be patient, and we're gonna get through it. And inevitably, my child would be struggling to a point that I would then be pushed out of, like, stretched beyond my capacity, and I would no longer be very calm or patient anymore. And that was like the struggle for a long time. But what I learned to do differently was that when that moment happens, that the answer is to then just like let go and remember that it's okay. This is not a perfect process, and it is really messy. Life is messy, relationships are messy, and that's okay. We don't have to do this perfectly. Our kids don't need us to do this perfectly. And there are like going to be nights that are going to feel harder than others. But the one thing that I really love about this process compared to like trying to do all the other different things that a lot of parenting approaches or suggestion out there talks about is trying to strategize different ways to support them in falling asleep. Because those variables are endless. There are, like, on any given day, it can be different, right? Like, depending on what they ate, depending on how much they slept the night before, depending on, like, what they did during the day, like, depending on what you ate and what you did during the day. Like, there's so many different things, and there's just no controlling all of that. We can't micromanage what they're eating, how they use the bathroom, who they're interacting with, like specifically, especially if they're in school. Like, there's just so much we don't have control over. Yes, we can set up a nice, consistent bedtime routine, and yes, we can do what we can do. But if at the end of the day you have done all of the things, right, and you're still feeling like, what else can I do? Or what else can I control? What can I change in their environment? It's like whack-a-mole. So this process is actually internal work for us as the parents, and it is the one thing that we really have so much more agency and power in, and that I have found to be the most reliable and sustainable place to put my efforts and just like time and energy, because I get the most benefit from it. That doesn't mean like don't do what you can in their environment to support them. It just means like stop losing your mind trying to figure it out and problem solve it, because wow, I did that for so long and it was exhausting. And I am really, really grateful to say that today, like, I don't consider our sleep to be a problem. I don't get into power struggles with my daughter over her sleep, because I take care of myself first. And so that's through a lot of practice. So to jump in, right? Because yeah, that's where we're at right now, is jumping in. Two parts. All of it is practice, but first we're going to start right now practicing, assuming that you want to be able to do this first part. You want to be able to find space and time where you can sit comfortably, relax. You can be lying down, but something that you can close your eyes and you can be still. And I know that for some people, they hate that, and there are other ways to do it, but I'm not getting into that in this video, maybe in another one. For this one, it is a process of, you don't have to be perfectly still, but you get to focus on this right now. And once you find yourself like comfortable, feeling comfortable in where you're sitting or laying or standing, I guess, just really settle into it. And you can close your eyes, and you're going to see that moment when your child falls asleep, with them being nice and cozy. Their eyes are closed, they're resting, and they're safe. They're quiet and still. And you're noticing how that feels for you in your body. Noticing how there's a sense of relief, relaxation, opening up, spaciousness. And it just feels good. And you really want to take that in. And it doesn't have to be for very long, just like this moment. But really feel it. And then we're gonna take this feeling and we're gonna rewind the tape to earlier in the night when your child is not yet asleep, but you guys are getting ready for sleep, right? You're in the bedtime process, in your routine, your prep, leading up to sleepy time. And you're still feeling this spaciousness, this good feeling. And if, as you start seeing the bedtime routine, getting your kids in pajamas or whatever it is, and you start to feel the power struggle set in, whatever else might come in, go ahead and pause and let that good feeling of them already being asleep come back to you. And just be with that. And then go back to this seeing the bedtime routine while feeling this relaxed relief, spaciousness, whatever words you would use to describe it, whatever sensations come up for you that feel good, and be with that. And then you're gonna just move your way through the bedtime routine back to the place where they're asleep. Whatever those steps are, just move through it while still feeling relaxed and relieved or happy or elated, whatever it is that it feels like when they're asleep. And you're going to practice this every day. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. It can just be a couple of minutes, but every day. And the more consistent you can be and the more frequent it can be, it's just like practicing anything, right? I don't need to say more about that. Just practice it. If you're not practicing, it's not going to work. And then the second part of this is when you're actually going through the bedtime routine, bedtime process, helping them get to sleep. Even if this is something where, they're laying in their bed, you leave the room, and they're like coming out repeatedly, asking for water or whatever it is. During that process, you're going to take moments here and there to pause and to recall and see, oh, they're already asleep. They're asleep. What it's like, what it feels like for them to be asleep. And it's going to take like an actual stopping what you're doing in that process to just, maybe you close your eyes, maybe you don't, maybe you put a hand on your heart or your belly, or whatever feels good, whatever brings back this like, oh yeah, that's right, they're asleep. A good feeling of safety, of rest. And that will happen like as often as you can or as often as you need to throughout the process until they're actually asleep every night. And if you're able to practice those two parts, that's it. Every night, as best you can. It's really important to also like not put a ton of pressure on yourself to do this perfectly, because that just ruins it. And let go of the pressure, let go of the outcome, and remember that ultimately, whatever helps you feel in touch with your body and feeling good, and helps you open up and feel a spaciousness in your body, in your head, in your thoughts, in your mind, that helps you slow down, that is going to lead to better outcomes. Period. So just practice that. See how it feels. For like actual like smooth, no battling bedtimes is going to take a little bit of time. But again, if you're doing it every single day, if you're practicing it every single day, those smoother bedtimes and no battling will happen sooner. And it is like a muscle. The more you practice it, the more you work it out, the more it grows, the easier it gets. So give that a try for a month. See what you notice, see what works, see what doesn't, and see what tweaks you can make for you. If it feels really hard to do, that's okay. Some people are going to need actual like more support, right? Like one YouTube video isn't gonna like always fix it, but you can try and see what happens. And if this was helpful or interesting or anything, you can give it a like. If you want more parenting content that talks about different ways to approach parenting, you can subscribe. And I hope that you have smooth bedtime sailings. Until next time.